This is Basic AF episode 91. Show notes for this episode and all episodes can be found at basicafshow.com. Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Anderson. Good to be with you again. And I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Battersby. Hello, Jeff.
Good morning, Tom Anderson. Man, I almost forgot your last name.
It's only been 3 days since we talked. But...
Right, exactly. We've never spoken before, so it's nice to meet you, Tom.
Yeah, you too, Jeff.
And I was getting a little ahead of myself. I was going to say we're coming to you from the future.
Yes.
We're recording episode 91 after we recorded episode 89 and have not yet recorded episode 90. So
which will be tomorrow.
Yes, we'll record episode 90 tomorrow. So we're a hot mess of dates, and we are talking in the future, actually in the past about the future. So,
okay, that got deep. Okay,
look at me. I'm very philosophical this morning.
Well, Jeff, I'm excited for this one. We have a guest with us today. He's one of the co-founders of an app that we've talked about a good bit on the show.
Yes, sir.
That when we did our favorite things of 2025 last December, this was on the list. Also made the list of my essential apps and services that I sent out to my newsletter readers. Snipd, so the AI-based podcast app. And we're happy today to be joined by Kevin Smith, co-founder of Snipd. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me. And of course, also Mr. Battersby, Jeff.
Look at you. Got that name right. I can't get Tom's last name right, but you got my name correct. I love it.
First try.
Yeah.
Well
done.
Yes. So, Kevin, thanks for carving out some time to hang out with us for this one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the app, and we're going to talk about it, obviously, a good bit. But before we dig into it, why don't you give us a little bit of background of yourself, and then we can kind of go into the journey of Snipd and how you decided to create the app and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, my backstory, at least as to the extent that it's connected to Snipd, I think the best starting point is actually in 2016, where I started basically my first real job after college. So actually during university, I studied to become what is called a quant. So I studied mathematics and economics, all geared towards becoming one of these people who build all of these mathematical models for the stock market trading, quantitative trading, all of that stuff. But just at the end of all of my studies, a friend of mine told me about this thing called machine learning. And it was still quite niche at the time. I mean, of course, today everyone calls it AI, but back then it was still called machine learning. And I got into it over a weekend, and I basically completely fell in love with it and decided that this is what I have to do with my life and my career. So long story short, I actually quit my part-time job that I already had at a big bank here in Switzerland where I live, and instead decided to join an early-stage tech startup to build up the AI team. And that was in 2016. So there I was, my first day at this startup. I had no idea about startups. And to get me onboarded into the whole startup culture and how to approach things in a startup versus, like a big bank, a big corporate, the founder recommended this podcast to me called How to Start a Startup, which coincidentally was done by Sam Altman at the time, who in the meantime now very famously is OpenAI CEO. Back then, OpenAI hadn't been started yet when they created that podcast. And so here I was in Zurich, in Switzerland, on the other side of the planet to the Silicon Valley, San Francisco tech hub ecosystem. And I'm riding my bike to work every morning and getting this incredible advice from some of the most successful entrepreneurs that we've seen over the last 10 years. Like people that you would never get the chance to talk to, or again, you would have to move to San Francisco and be lucky enough to get into the same room with them and then get enough time to get them to reveal some of their secrets to you. And this was really a moment for me where I realized how valuable podcasts are as a source of knowledge and learning. Yeah, and during that time, that was, however, also the time when I ran into all of these problems that I had. I'd be riding my bike to work, and there would be this amazing insight. I'm like, oh my God, I need to remember this insight. So I'd get off my bike, take out my phone, open up the notes app, write down, oh yeah, you should do this and that. And you do that a couple of times until at some point it's like, oh my God. I mean, I have to get to work. I can't stop every 2 minutes. So yeah, at some point you stop doing that with every insight, and then you get to work and you want to tell your colleagues about it, right? Because you want to share these insights that you've now learned. And then the things that you didn't write down, you don't really remember them anymore. And some of the notes that you wrote down you're trying to communicate it to the other person, but it's like, I'm not communicating in the right way. He said it in such an elegant way. Let me find that moment again in the podcast. So then you open up the podcast app, you try to find that 30-second, 60-second moment within a 2-hour episode. You hit that skip 20-second button like 50 times back and forth, and no, I'm too far. So long story short, you don't find the moment. And the final piece of the puzzle is you then recommend listening to this full episode to your friends or your colleagues at work. And a week later, you ask them again, so, hey, did you listen to it? And of course, they didn't. Because I like comparing a podcast recommendation. It's often comparable to recommending a book. It's sort of like, oh, that sounds incredibly interesting. I'll just add it to my reading list of 567 books that I already have on my aspirational to-do list. So yeah, these were all, let's say, problems that I encountered as a user and a fan of podcasts. But given that my background was in this machine learning, AI, I did various things with AI applying to text at the time. And then there was this moment where a new research paper had come out where a lot of the techniques that have worked quite well for text in the AI world, they were now being applied to speech. And it was still quite early, but for me, it was like a sign that everything that we had seen work well with text would now also work well with speech, or at least in the next couple of years. And that together with some other factors in my life, I decided, hey, let's tackle this. Let's start my own startup. Just to give a bit of timeline, this was now 5 years after my first day at the startup. So I had a very nice run at that startup, enjoyed it very much. But it was time for something new. And so I decided to start Snip together with 2 other friends. Yeah.
Excellent. So you're the one, or the 3 of you, I should say, presumably one of them's doing the programming. Do you do the programming?
We all do programming.
Really? Okay. So you're all part of that puzzle. The machine learning, the AI portion of that, I presume is mostly you, or is it the other two people that are working with you?
So the interesting thing is that this has changed entirely over the last 2 years, I would say.
Okay.
So back when we started, which, just to give a bit of context, like the first thing, we first started playing around with it 5 years ago. So we've already been playing around with this for a while. This was before ChatGPT came out, so before there were any APIs that you could just call. So when we started out, it was me and one other friend of mine who, the 2 of us, both our backgrounds was in AI and machine learning. So we were doing most of that. But now, today, it's completely different. Like today, we're not training our own models or fine-tuning them, but we're using these APIs that are available. So everyone has become an AI engineer. Which I believe is the normal thing. There's no distinction anymore, in my opinion, between a software engineer and an AI engineer. It's just part of the job.
Interesting. So you're using, do you mind saying what backend you're using for? machine learning for the what AI or APIs you're calling?
Yeah, so I think you need to differentiate between what we're using for building the app. So basically what we're using as tools ourselves as workers, and what we're using inside of the product. So if you're a user of the product, what you're using there. So inside the app, we've used all models that you can imagine from all providers, and it keeps evolving. It's really a question of what's the latest model that has come out, what is the pricing structure, how good are they for which task, to constantly optimize that. At the moment, however, very interestingly, I think we have like 90% or even more running via OpenAI. But, ask me again in 6 months and it might look very different. And internally, there we are using, I would say, 50-50 Anthropic models and OpenAI models.
Okay.
But this also is like that switches almost faster than what we're using in the product. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think Tom can speak to that. I know, Tom, you've bounced around a bunch of these, and currently at home you're Claude.
Pretty much. 80%
Gemini
in Gemini at work, and been using more ChatGPT at work. We just got some ChatGPT business accounts. So for us at work, we have to be careful with the data that we put in to the AI tools. So we had to get the proper business licenses in place that put the data protections around. Hey, we're not going to train off of your chats, and your data is not going to go anywhere, and that kind of stuff. And we just got that for ChatGPT recently. So I've actually started to use it more than Gemini. I think Gemini's decent. It's not my favorite. Like, I complain on here a good bit. Like, the Google interfaces for some reason and everything don't really excite me very much. Like Google Docs functionality, we use it. It's great. Like for collaborative work, like with Google Sheets and everything like that. I mean, it's hard to beat, but they're just not too good to look at, in my opinion. But so, question for you though. I'm just curious. So you said you went from finance, and then when you got into machine learning and you saw that, that kind of really was like, wow, this is what I want to do. What about it kind of drew you to become so focused on it and wanting to use it? Like, what was that attraction there?
Yeah, for me, so the part that I was studying, the part that I enjoyed the most was always the modeling, working with data. In general, the mathematics side of things. That's also where I had my natural talent, and why how I got into this. It was sort of, I was always very talented in mathematics and I enjoyed it. And then it was a bit of a question when it came to what should I study. It was clear, let's study something with mathematics, but I wanted to have something connected to it where I saw a more practical application of it. Let's put it like that. And when I stumbled across machine learning, it sort of, to me, took away the parts that I wasn't excited about in my studies and gave me much more of the things that I was excited about. So working with data, understanding data, getting the machine to learn the patterns for you, which was another part of, maybe I can go a bit deeper into that part there. In the finance world, at least at the time, the way that you modeled data was that you came up with a economic theory how stock markets should behave. And you have a lot of assumptions behind that. So, for example, every participant is a rational investor, as it's called. Yeah. That's the first assumption, right? So,
also mistake number one, but go ahead.
And everyone has access to perfect information and all of these assumptions that just make no sense in the real world. But out of that, you build a very beautiful, I have to say, I really use the word beautiful on purpose here, really beautiful mathematical theory and formula that describes then a lot of the behavior, and it does get you quite far on certain stock market movements, etc. But then once you try to apply these formulas in the real world, you realize, oh, you know what? It actually doesn't always fit in these moments or in that moments. Let's just add a little something to the formula. Let's just add one more parameter. Like one more parameter is fine, right? Come on, that's okay. So you add one more parameter. And of course, you come up with some kind of justification and theory and argue about that. And now you have to fit that to the data. So, what value should this parameter have? So you use, again, like statistical methods to find that and fine tune it. And I always wondered, but why don't we add another parameter? And why don't we add yet another parameter, another one? And why should we not just go through all of these possibilities and see what fits best? So I had this in the back of my mind, and when I came across machine learning, that's exactly what machine learning is: going through all of the different possibilities and learning purely from the data, what the data empirically tells you, and only trying to be able to predict what will happen next, independent of let's say, certain theories or biases that we have. So that immediately captured my interest, and I just loved it. It was also so accessible to me, because I had all of the tools to do all of these things, but it felt like there wasn't. I didn't have to come up with a grand new unifying theory of how people behave in the stock market for this to make sense. No, you could just apply it and see, hey, is this better in predicting how the stock market will move the next day or not? So yeah, I really love that.
Interesting. A little side question: are you still doing anything on the banking side? Are you paying attention to the stock market and how it moves? Are you building your own little tools to be able to take care of that kind of stuff, or have you kissed the banking world goodbye?
I've kissed the banking world goodbye. Yeah. No, I mean, of course, I try to invest my savings in a smart way, and I'm interested. The interesting thing that has happened since entering the startup world is that I've become much more interested in the actual companies. So this is something that almost the thing that I was missing in my studies back then, or like that back then in my studies, I wasn't really interested in the companies. I was interested in the numbers and the mathematics, but not in the companies. And interestingly enough, today I have actually developed that interest, but coming from a completely different aspect, not from the corporate kind of thinking. If you study economics, in my opinion, when you study economics, they really don't teach you how to actually build a business. But it's all about these like corporate structures, which are sort of second and third order effects of, if you have built a very successful business, then yes, you need to think about how to structure your company in the right amount of equity and the right amount of debt. But like that's like far down the line. Yeah, like first build something that somebody else finds useful enough that they're willing to pay you something, and that they really don't teach you. And that's one of the things that I loved about the startup world and still love today. Yeah.
So back to the first iteration of Snipd. So you had a very specific personal need, not wanting to get off your bike and open up the Notes app and put in a note and figure out where that was. What was the first iteration of Snipd like for you? What did you create initially?
Yeah. The very first hypothesis that we had was that we would solve two problems at the same time. One was how can we make more use of the information that we consume, which I would argue is a large part of what Snipd is today. And on the other side, let's solve how we can discover all of this great content. So at the time, one of the big things that everyone was talking about was TikTok. TikTok had just blown up on the world stage. And we thought, how about we have this concept where a part of our listeners, then while they're listening to podcasts, they create these little clips that we would call snips, basically by highlighting great moments while they listen. And then there's another set of users, or at a different time during the day, other users would listen to these snips, similarly as you would go on TikTok. And we thought that would be a great way to discover new podcasts that you can then dive into later when you're back on your bike or on your commute. So that is sort of the first version that we built. And the expectation that we had internally was that it would be very easy to get people to listen to these little snips, like, I don't know, 1 to 2 minute little podcast clips, but it will be very hard to get people to create snips. And then we released it out in the world and got users to test it. And of course, it was the exact opposite, that nobody wanted to listen to these snips, but everyone was creating snips all over the place.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was actually our first iteration, and that was then the moment when we started focusing more and more on the side of extracting the knowledge that you're listening to, making that useful to the user, making it easy to connect that, for example, to your Notes app, or to share it with a friend, and have then focused less on the discovery side or consumption of the snips.
Okay. So right now, if you want to explain to us the basic way the current version of the app works. So I'm a new user. You want me to start using this. What are you saying that the app does? How does it go about? There are a couple of features actually in the new version that I want to ask you about, but give me the rundown of how you actually use Snipd on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, I'm hearing two questions. One is, how do I pitch Snipd to someone I come across? And the other thing is, how do I use it personally?
Yes, both of them.
Okay. Maybe we can start with the first one. So usually I would actually ask the other person whether they listen to podcasts. So maybe I can do this with you, Jeff. Do you listen to podcasts?
Many. Go ahead.
Great. What kind of podcasts do you listen to?
It varies. So some tech podcasts, obviously I listened to this one several times, the one that we're currently on, but also like one of my favorite podcasts, a couple of my favorite podcasts, Throughline, which is an NPR podcast, Seen on Radio, which is another, they've kind of bounced around. I don't even know who's running that one. But both of those tend to be very deep dive, and honestly, particularly with Seen on Radio, they're like college courses. Every single episode is dense with information, and I often will listen to those over and over again, much like I would read a book that I love over and over again.
That sounds quite incredible. That sounds, as you said, quite dense in knowledge. Do you ever have that moment that you hear an amazing insight on one of these podcasts that you would like to remember?
All the time. Yeah, all the time. What
do you do in that moment?
Often rewind it and listen to it again. I circle back, and again, I'm. Of the three of us sitting here, I'm the oldest in the club.
No, that's great.
So I often, like I would in a college course, I would write something down and then ruminate on it for a little bit, and then come back to it again and kind of see if I can. I don't want to say make it so it's something that's applicable, but my brain tends to hold on to those things in a very generalized cloud. I hang on to that information, and whether it's reading an article, for example. Tom knows this, but I've been working on a novel for a couple of years now. I'll read an article, I'll read the whole of it, I'll put it into notes, but my brain retains, I know what was in that particular article and the piece that I wanted to pull out of it. And that's much the way that I listen to a podcast. I listen to something and I'll read it and reread it. I'm a slow reader, so I'll listen and re-listen in a podcast until I feel like I've integrated that into that little cloud of knowledge that I have.
Yeah, cool.
God forbid that I get dementia. But.
No, that's great. So basically, what you can use Snip for, or what you could do if you listen to your podcast on Snip, is basically every time you come across one of these moments where you think, oh, this is an incredible insight that I'd love to remember or re-listen to in the future, revisit in some kind of way, you can just tap your headphones. It works with any kind of headphones that are out there. It doesn't have to be AirPods, but you just tap them. And what happens is that our AI saves the moment that you just listened to with the original audio, the transcript, plus it uses AI to generate a quick note for you, which now automatically gets synced to your Notes app or just saved in the app, and you can revisit that at any time. So basically, when you come back in the future and you want to re-listen to it, you could choose to re-listen to the entire episode. You could also just re-listen to your snips, as we call them, these highlights that you created, or you can go through the notes that it generated for you, just to because often that's already enough to resurface the insight to see the notes that the AI made for you. Yeah, so this would be my my pitch to you if I met you at a dinner party.
Okay, fair. All right, excellent. Now I know, Tom, you use this extensively. You've been using Snip for a long time. I, as I mentioned, have not used it a lot. I am playing with it again, obviously specifically to have this conversation with you, Kevin, but also just to kind of get a feel for it. But Tom, you've integrated this into your Readwise experience as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. And, my experience before Snipd is very similar to Kevin's. Like, I'd be commuting, I'd hear something, and this is going back. Snipd couldn't have existed back then because we were still listening to podcasts on iPods and stuff. But I would hear stuff and I'd be like, oh, I need to remember when I get to work to write that down. And I never do it. And then I would try Siri. I'd say, magic word, do this. And it was Siri, so it didn't do it. So I think that's going to get better with the new Siri, but different conversation. So with this, it's just been game changing. Like, fantastic, because I'm constantly hearing things in shows that I want to remember. And so, I'm snipping. I'll use the auto snips too if I'm just mowing the yard or something like that and listening to stuff. But I will use the tap the headset too. But yeah, I do have it tied to Readwise. I find that that's helpful with the daily emails they send or the weekly or whatever it is. And so I'll use it that way. Now, something I did recently just to test to see how it would turn out is I had Claude make a study dashboard of all of my highlights, which are basically just snips. And I had it give me the summary that Snip creates. And then, of course, it gives you the transcript portion as well. And then I had it detect the themes automatically. And so it breaks it out into productivity, business, personal development, whatever they are. And then I'll review those. And then it gives me like a quiz at the end to see if I've retained the information or not. And so I just did that the other day just to see if it would work. And it worked surprisingly well. But I think that's the thing, because a lot of the content that I'll be listening to, like, it's an interesting snippet at the point, but it's really something that I feel like I may want to use later. Like and what I like is that I can go back in, I can search it, I can listen to it again if I want to kind of get even additional context, because sometimes it's part of a 3 or 4 or 5 minute discussion point in the podcast. So it's nice to be able to go back to do that as well.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting topic that you brought up. In my opinion, I really see the future of personal knowledge management being these agents, these AI agents like Claude Code or whatever your favorite agent is. And the role that apps like ours play, and also Readwise and similar apps, is really making it as seamless as possible for you to capture the context, capture the information that you are consuming, and making it available to your AI agent, such that in the future, when you come up, when you remember, hey, there was something that I heard on a podcast somewhere, this was a great insight for this, that it actually has access to this information, can find it again, and resurface it. So I think that's in general a trend that we will see much more in our society. You can already see it much more in companies, right? Where now in a lot of corporates, it's quite normal that meetings get transcribed and saved somewhere, such that you can access that information again. And to me, it just makes sense to also do that with the content that you consume personally, at least as long as you're consuming that content partly to learn from it.
So one of the new features that you have in the it's in a beta version is something called DJ.
Yeah.
Which I played with actually this morning. I decided to use the DJ to listen to our last episode of the podcast, which is about an hour and 15 minutes. Way longer than we normally do, but a lot of coverage. And we had two other people on that current, or we have two other people on that current episode. It synthesized the entire thing down to 12 minutes. So I feel very bad about wasting 57 minutes of everybody's time. But one of the things that always, that it doesn't matter what AI it is, or, whether it's Cliff Notes on a book or something like that, is, so it took an hour and 15, it knocked it down to 12, and it pulls out what it believes are, and actually in listening to what the DJ pulled out, definitely relevant and key points from what the conversation that we had. But how is it making that determination? How do I know it's not missing key points of the conversation, or maybe even a side conversation that is relevant or might be relevant to me? How do we miss that? So you want to tell us, and again, I understand that this is a beta feature, so it's not refined to the point where it's perfect yet. But can you tell us a little bit about? It's a great feature. I do like the idea of being able to take to basically filter out the garbage and come up with the key points. But can you?
There's no garbage on this show, Jeff.
That's correct, Tom. This is pure content. Every word is relevant and important. But can you tell me a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes? First of all, listen to that podcast in short order, and because I imagine there aren't very many people, unless it was Tom, who have already run the last episode of Basic AF through Snipd. So how is it making that determination, or those determinations?
Yeah. Maybe first I can give a little bit of background just on the feature itself, and then go into how it works in the background. So the idea of the DJ feature, Snipd DJ, is maybe again starting. I always like bringing it back to how I think about it as a user myself. So I'm subscribed to, I think, more than 100 podcast shows. Yeah, there's so much content out there. And I come across so much content that I would love to consume. And then there are episodes, they come out and I see it and I immediately know, okay, I will 100% listen to this episode from start to finish. And I will do so. And then there's sort of the second category of episodes that it sounds really interesting to me, and I'll add it to my queue. But if I'm really honest, I know I will most probably not get around to listening to this, again, 2.5 hour conversation. I had one example I had recently there was an episode about peptides, and it seems like everyone's talking about peptides now, right. And I should know about it. But am I going to listen for 2.5 hours? Probably not. Like, this is sort of in the second category. So up until now, I would add it to my queue and it would sort of die a slow death in my queue graveyard. But, you know, what I would notice is that every now and then I'd be on YouTube and there was a clip of the episode, you know, like a 5-minute clip. And I was like, yeah, so I don't know, it says called, okay, the 3 most important things to know about peptides. And I'm like, you know, I can invest those 5 minutes. So I'd listen to those 5 minutes on YouTube or watch it on YouTube. So what we tried to do in the Snip tab is basically say, hey, if you, for the second category of episodes that you otherwise wouldn't have listened to, can we enable you to invest maybe not 2.5 hours, but invest maybe 20 minutes of your time and then just listen to the best moments of this episode. And once you've done that, you can still decide, hey, this was actually incredibly good. I'll go back and listen to the full thing, or say, no, that was actually really enough. I don't want more. So that was the idea, and that's what the feature currently does in the app today. So if you come across an episode, you can activate the DJ. It will go through the episode, try to identify which moments are most relevant to you, and then will guide you through them. So you're still listening to the original audio. We're not copying any audio. The DJ is merely controlling the player. Plus, the DJ acts like a moderator. So it gives a quick intro to each highlight moment. And then before jumping to the next highlight moment, again, gives a little segue or introduction to the next moment. Because if you're just listening in audio and it's jumping from highlight to highlight, it's very disorienting. You know, like suddenly there's a new voice that comes on. It's like, who is this now speaking? And wait, now they're talking about something else. Maybe you just drifted off for a couple of seconds, which is actually quite normal when listening to podcasts and doing something else at the same time. And suddenly they're talking about something entirely different. So the DJ then acts as a moderator and gives these short introductions. But the main idea is you're still listening to, it's not a summary, you're still listening to the actual content. So that's what's live today. How does that work? One thing I wanted to mention, your experience, I guess it shows that it's not yet fully refined yet. The idea is actually not to break down a 1.5 hour conversation into just 12 minutes. That's very short. The goal that
we said nothing, you know, which is reasonable. That's a reasonable assumption on this podcast.
The goal is actually more to identify like the 20 to 25% of the episode that are most relevant or most insightful. The way that it does that is it's an AI model that looks at the entire episode in one single go, and it tries to identify what are actually the core themes of this episode, like really starting from the episode title. Usually there is one main theme that they try to focus on, and based on that tries to then go through the moments to identify, okay, these were the key insights that the guest wanted to convey or the host wanted to convey through his questions, and then focuses on those. This will inevitably always leads to a loss of information. Our feature is not a promise that you get the exact same amount of information as listening to the whole thing. I believe there's always a trade-off in any of these things, and people should be aware of that trade-off. If you really want the entire conversation and the side question, the side quest that sometimes gives you that little nugget of information that you otherwise wouldn't have found, then please do listen to the entire episode. We encourage that. It's not, in general, our, let's say, culture internally at Snipd, or how we see it is we don't try to, like, we don't have an opinion on whether or not you listen to the whole thing or just a part of it. In my opinion, that should be up to the listener to decide. That being said, one of the biggest feature requests, or one of the biggest requests for this feature, let's put it like that, is to give the user more control over steering it. So customizing it. Basically two sides. One is personalization and the other side is customization. So personalization, automatically learning from your behavior, from your interests, from your snipping behavior on other podcasts. And the other part is what I call customization, where you explicitly tell it, hey, I don't know, you're listening to an episode with, I don't know, let's say Elon Musk. And maybe you say, look, I mean, I've heard all of his Tesla stories. I'm just interested in what does he have to say about now the big IPO. So yeah, these are requests that are out there, and hopefully we'll be able to implement them in the future. And to basically, for me, it always goes back to giving control to the user. To me, or the listener in our case, the listener should be able to decide what they want.
Excellent. All right. Yeah, that's great. I do like the feature, I have to say. And we can have a conversation around, why anybody's doing a 2-hour podcast. That's a totally different conversation.
Well, I'm glad they're doing that. I would say most of the podcasts that I listen to are 1 to 3 hours long. So I love long podcasts. I'm also a big fan of the Acquired podcast, if you're familiar. I mean, some of their episodes have gone up to 6 hours. And I love it.
I would never in 1,000 years.
Jeff and I wouldn't be friends anymore if we did that.
Yeah, no. 6 hours, much too long for me.
So Kevin, I've blocked the rest of my day off for I
this?
thought this was going to be an 8-hour episode marathon. I ordered lunch.
Great. What did you get us?
That's funny. Something I wanted to talk to you a little bit about. I know we're getting kind of close to time there. 8 hours aside, that joke aside, but so we're seeing a lot of apps these days that are kind of bolting on AI just to say they've got AI added to them. Some of them doing it in ways that are more thoughtful than others. But I think if you could talk about your approach here, because this with Snipd is AI is essential to the application. It's weaved throughout the whole listener experience. So could you talk to us about I guess we've not really talked, we've talked about DJ and a couple of other, the snips, of course, but maybe touch a little bit on some of the other tools or features in the app and how AI works with those.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So maybe we can start with when a new podcast episode comes out. So what we actually do is we transcribe the podcast. We identify who are the speakers that are speaking in the podcast. We try to find a bio about them. We try to find an image of them on the internet. Then we identify when exactly in the podcast they are speaking, such that we really have good data and knowing, okay, this statement was made by that person. And afterwards, we create chapters for the podcasts. We identify all of the books that get mentioned on a podcast, such that we can show that to the user in a nice way. Also, for the books, we go out into the internet, we research the book, we try to find the cover, the title, the author, all in a nice way that it looks beautiful in the app. Yeah, so we do a lot of processing. We do a lot of processing to help the user know what this episode is about, and then for our AI internally know what this episode is about, who was on it, and what were they talking about. When it comes to features afterwards, some of the features that we have, like the main feature we spoke about, the snipping, the ability to save this moment just by tapping your headphones. But we also have other features which one of them is chat with episode. So you can actually find any moment within an episode or look something up or create a custom notes for you just by chatting with the episode, similar to ChatGPT. We have the DJ feature, as we mentioned. So all of these features have AI incorporated in them in some kind of way. But we have at least always tried to not build a feature just because we can, just because AI is now around, but because we're actually trying to solve a user problem. And I think that's often where some products go wrong, especially maybe from like larger corporations. I think there was a moment maybe 2 years ago when AI came out, or when ChatGPT came out, and everyone felt like they had to have a chatbot. Everything just had to have a chat window somewhere. And yeah, we always try to bring it back to the user problem. The fun thing for us, also the great thing for us, is that, especially if you compare us with other podcast apps are very neutral with respect to the target audience that they're speaking to. So we've been very opinionated from the very start and saying, hey, we are the podcast app for people who listen to knowledge-rich podcasts. If you listen to true crime podcasts, Snipd is not going to do much for you. And that is totally fine. But given that we have this clear persona of person that we're targeting and speaking to, it actually becomes then very easy to know what can be features that we can build, because we know their problems, we know what they're trying to do. And then AI is a great help that now, or a great enabler of a lot of these, to solve a lot of these problems, especially when it comes to information and knowledge, right? Because that's one of the big things where these LLMs are extremely good at, taking large amounts of information and repurposing it, reformulating it, or identifying things, extracting things, adding things. Did that answer the question?
No, it did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it did. And, we were talking there a couple of minutes ago about, I was using Readwise to do some things with the snips afterwards. I just wanted to go back to that to say it's not required for that. Like, you've got perfectly, suitable, chat with your snips or review your snips built into the app too. So you don't have to have anything beyond that. Like, you can go right into the app each day, talk to the snips you've already made, ask questions, go back to listen to the snip itself, the audio clip. So all of that is built in too.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, Kevin, really grateful that you took the time to talk with us this morning, this afternoon in Switzerland, I suspect. But we really appreciate it. I know Tom's a real lover of the app, and as I said earlier, I accidentally have a year-long subscription. So I'm gonna play with it. I'll play with it more and have the opportunity to use it. But I will say, well-designed app.
Thank you.
Really well designed, really thoughtful, and I do like the features that you have in it. So I'm looking forward to giving it a year-long run. and I think specifically for specific podcasts, like I do listen to Criminal, which is a true crime podcast, but as you said, not likely to get any insights other than how to be a criminal.
I mean, you can use the chat to ask who did it.
There you go. Yeah.
No, but maybe just maybe one side note for the listeners. Of course, you can use Snip for all of the podcasts that are out there, even if the features are not relevant for them. So you can listen to true crime podcasts. We do have all of the other standard features of a podcast app. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that I'm actually very happy to provide you guys with a link that you can share with your audience, with which anyone can try out the premium version of Snip for free for a month. So happy to do that. And with respect to you, Jeff, one thing that I actually personally always find important to do is, you mentioned you have an accidental 1-year subscription. So like for us, it's very important. Like if someone actually gets a subscription accidentally, they got a trial and they forgot to cancel. It has happened to me. It's completely normal. Like if anyone's listening and that happened to you, you can just reach out to us. We will refund it. Like, we don't want anyone to pay us any money if they actually don't want to. Like, I think that's just is a very sensible policy to have. And prevents, all of these kind of dark patterns in trying to get people to accidentally subscribe.
Yeah,
so
I intend
you
to
can
use it.
you can reach out.
I appreciate that, Kevin, but I will make use of the subscription. But I do appreciate that, and that is good to know, right? That you're not just trying to, grab people's pocket change. So tell us where we can find you, Kevin, on social media and places like that, as well as where we can. I presume you have a webpage for the Snipd app as well.
Yeah. So me personally, you can find me on Twitter or X. My handle is Kevin Ben Smith. So pretty straightforward. To find Snipd, the easiest thing is to go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and enter Snipd. It is spelled SNIPD. That's the only tricky part, getting the spelling right. Otherwise, you can check out our website first, just snipd.com, SNIPD. Or just click on the link that you guys hopefully will provide in the show notes.
We'll have one in the
show. Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, maybe on top, we're like in general, we love building this app. We're actively working on it. We regularly come up with new features and things that we try. So if someone's listening and says, "Hey, I have always had this feature request," reach out to us. And we have already some cool things in the pipeline for the next couple of months. So give it a shot and see whether you like it.
Excellent. Alrighty, Tom, I'll give the closing notes and then you can shut us down.
Sounds good.
Tom, where do we find you?
TomFAnderson.com is the website. Tom Anderson on Threads. We'll do it.
Got a nice newsletter in addition to this podcast. So, and Tom's, for those of you that have college-bound kids, has a really great website for how to select the right computer for your kids going to college. So that's a good thing. That Tom, you've been doing that for what, 3-4 years now?
It's third year.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great resource for anybody that has someone that's tripping off to college, and so highly recommend that. Show Music, Psychokinetic, Celsius 7, always grateful to them, and Randall Martin Design for our show logo. And Tom, I think that's us. Kevin, thanks again, man. Really appreciate you taking the time to come on with us, and look forward to having people hear about your app, which is really quite good. And thank you.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Really do appreciate it. And we'll definitely share that link for the trial to get some people to try it out. I think they'll enjoy it. So that'll be good. All right, well, that's it for this episode. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us for 54 minutes and some change. And so until we talk to you again in a couple of weeks.
Synthesize down to 3.
Have a great rest of your day or your night.
See ya.